Welcome to the Owenverse, this little corner of my universe. This podcast is about turning points, the moments that shift you, the conversations that wake you up, the decisions that change your direction. Because at some point, we all step into a new version of ourselves. And the question is, when did you? Today, I am with my friend Taylor Dayton. Taylor is a great friend of mine. We've known each other since middle school now.
Eighth grade.
Eighth grade, yeah. And we've done a couple shows together. We're in one right now. We're in Much Ado About Nothing at Bingham.
Shakespeare
Show, our first Shakespeare show. Quite the experience. Quite the neat experience.
Yeah.
And we're going to be talking about an experience that we had. You know those books that you read as a kid, the I Survived books? Well, we survived the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And of course, only one gunshot was fired, and it was fired at Charlie Kirk. And that's a very terrible thing that happened. But our lives were still at risk that day. And it was a very scary and honestly kind of a neat experience for both of us. So with that being said, I would like to declare that this episode is going to be from a mutual perspective. We're not going to try and enforce any of our political affiliations with this, and we're really just going to focus on our experience there. So not to scare any viewers away or anything, this is a mutual and safe ground perspective. So thank you for tuning into the Owenverse. So with that being said, we talked a little bit about you, Taylor.
Yeah.
Tell the world a little bit more about yourself.
Well, like Owen said, I'm Taylor Dayton, and we're both in high school together. We have been in a few shows, known him since eighth grade. I love acting and singing. A little bit of dancing. I love sports. I have a small TikTok, Instagram, YouTube Shorts, social media about current unbiased events that I run too. And yeah, I think that's a bit about me.
Yeah, Taylor has started this this TikTok account. It's Taylor Dayton News, right?
Yeah. One of the two.
Take a look at that. He has his own kind of news source where he covers a bunch of stuff going on in the world and shares it from just from kind of like a mutual perspective. Just
try to stay in the middle.
Try and stay in the middle, and just gets the information. Just no bull crap. It's just right there. So we're gonna get right into it. So my first question for you is: you hear about like days like this. You could probably agree that this is something that you're probably never going to forget. Like you'll tell your children about this and your grandchildren. And this is a neat experience. So kind of just walk us through the day. What were you doing that morning? We both had school. It was probably I think it was like a Thursday or something like that. What was going through your head, and why did you want to go down and be a part of this?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you, Owen, for having me on the show.
Oh, thank you.
But I heard about this event, right? We had our Club Rush Day, and the Turning Point Club popped in. And I think I signed up for like 3 or 4 of like just all the political clubs because I'm really interested in politics.
Okay.
And Turning Point happened to be one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And their first big thing they wanted to do was go to the Charlie Kirk debates down at UVU. And I was a little bit skeptical, about I think the event as a whole, and Charlie Kirk as a person, because all I knew about him were the small little snippets you see on TikTok or Instagram, right?
Right.
But I was like, hey, this is a good time for me to get out, for me to start like looking into the real world, for me to kind of define and my own personal political opinions. And I was like, this is going to be a great event just to go to and just be a part of, just to hear other people's perspectives and just kind of see what people think.
Yeah, and just to clarify here, our high school, so we go to Bingham High School, and this club that you're a part of, Turning Point USA, this was a field trip, right?
Well, this is actually a crazy part about this was, so they were planning on it being a field trip, and they were trying to get a bus to go to it, and they tried to talk to our principal and let him know, but he ended up either like saying no or about it being a field trip or whatnot, and kind of like crossing it out. And so that everyone that went to the event, including us, were just going on our own time. So a lot of people still went, but the school itself was just hey, this is not a field trip. If you're going on your own time.
Right. Yeah, that's the really unique thing with this too is the school was going to fund a bus for us to go down and experience it. Turning Point USA is a club; it's not a class, and but they canceled it. The cool thing with it is people were so passionate about going that they decided to skip school and go down and see it anyways.
Yeah.
And there are a ton of people that I know who are probably watching this too. Welcome. That kind of have a very similar experience to us. We skipped school and everything, and a lot of people went down to go see this, and it was really, really neat to see people putting the initiative to go see stuff they believe in and stuff. So you got to school. Were you there the whole day?
So I mean, I think the event was somewhat around noon, like ish. I think it was like an hour or two before noon. Might have been like 10 or 11 or something like that. I don't remember exactly. And UVU was a decent drive away from us. So I went to my first period for a little bit, then got checked out, and then we hopped in the car together, and then took off. I think it was like a 40-minute drive, 30-minute drive.
Yeah, it's about a 30 to 35 to 40-minute drive.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've actually mentioned this yet. I was down there with Taylor. That's a very important thing for me to probably say. I'm trying to get Taylor's perspective on this too. We've talked a lot about it, but not as much in depth. But I was down there too. I got to experience it with Taylor. This was just a thing that me and him did, and we've actually become a lot more better friends just from this experience.
100%.
So yeah, we both drove down. We stopped at J Dog's.
Yeah.
I love J Dog's. It's
delicious.
Probably going to be catered at my wedding. I love it so much.
We'll be at your wedding then.
And we made a stop there, and then we just got right back on the road, right, and got there around noon. Would you say?
Yeah. I don't remember the exact time that whatever the event started, but yeah, let's. I think did it start noon?
I think we got there like around noon.
Okay,
11:50ish or so.
Well, yeah. But we got out of the car. We were like a titchy bit late, and we took off, right? And I think it was like a 10-minute walk to the actual event from the UVU parking.
I would say so. It was. I mean, the structure of UVU is it's right off of the freeway, right off I-15, and then the parking lot is really, really close to I-15. And then it's about, you have to go through the parking lot, and then you have to go through the amphitheater, I believe is what they call it.
Yeah.
And that's about a 10 to 15 minute walk, I would say.
It was a decent walk, and we ended up actually meeting a few people. We met one lady that she walked with us the whole way because she was looking for the event also. And she talked to us and said that it was really rowdy there. And I mean, once you like got in the vicinity of it, you could hear the rowdiness like very, very clearly. Like there were a lot of people there. And so I don't know, we went up, got into our spots. We walked into the actual you said like amphitheater, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Charlie Kirk was at the very bottom, and then it was the ground just kind of raised up. And there were just people just on every single level, people above him, people around him, chanting, cheering, jeering, just all sorts of stuff, like just insane, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of flags too. That's an important part to mention. There were a lot, like 10 to 15 different flags,
right?
Different affiliations, different social ideologies, just hanging around.
Mm-hmm. Just to add a little bit of context, kind of like to what Taylor was saying. So we saw at the time it was like Israel and Palestine flags. Let's see, there was a couple pride flags.
Yeah.
Anything that was associated with the LGBTQ community. All sorts of
Yeah,
you could an event like that you could kind of consider some controversial flags
100%. Yeah,
for an event like that, and people have the right to believe all those things and support those things, but at an event that was very very right leaning and all sorts of things going on. It was a little out of the ordinary to have something like that. We were
yeah,
expecting some protests to be there, and good for those people to have to express all of their rights and to share their opinions and stuff there too. Charlie Kirk did make some comments about them coming down. I can't remember what he said. He said something in the lines of like, Utah, bring me on like your best like libs or something like that. I don't know. Something that really got the crowd all
yeah.
wild up and stuff.
Rowdy. Yeah.
So yeah, with that subject of the atmosphere, so I did some research. So they said there was about 3,000 people in attendance.
Wow.
That's a huge number
Yeah, for how small the area was.
for how small the area was. Yeah, and with that being said, there was a lot of people there. Of course, there was probably over 3,000 people there and such. But what did you see with the people? What people did you encounter? Were there children? Did you see any children there? Maybe did you see people that were like senior citizens, grandparents, and such? Any high schoolers? And the most interesting question I have for you is, did you see more? Did you see more UVU students, or did you see more general public?
Yeah. Well, to answer your question, I think most of the audience was young adults, right? Between the ages of like, I want to say like 17 and 28, right? That's a pretty, like most of the people were younger, um, younger students or just people from around the area. Uh, but on your question about the UVU versus just general public, I think there were more UVU students, though it was clear that there were a lot of UVU students that were not having it or were not happy with it. There was like a small club day going on, and you could hear the event like very very loudly, even
Mm-hmm.
inside the building. And it seemed like some people were bugged by it. It was a disruption. There were some college students just having their backpack on, just kind of like walking through, weaving through some people, and
Right.
trying to get to class. Um, so yeah,
Yeah, the most interesting thing is I'm surprised not enough news articles have covered this, but when we got there, we walked into their main hall at UVU. So if you've seen the photo, now where like the American flag used to be, I don't think that that big American flag is there anymore, according to some of my
I would
friends.
guess not. Yeah.
So where that American flag was, that's a big hallway basically, and they had their club rush that day, and we were kind of joking a little bit because the lady that we were walking with said we looked like college students, and they were selling popcorn and stuff for free to the UVU
Yeah.
students, and we were like, oh, we should just
Yeah,
grab
we
popcorn.
could probably just grab some of the items because they were handing out all
They were
sorts of
just
like
they were
shirts and whatnot,
exactly
and, like
yeah.
lanyards. We're like, oh yeah, we'll just walk in and then be
Which
like, oh yeah,
on that note is interesting. Just they let anyone in, and the fact that we could break into their club rush and then just break into. I mean, we didn't really break into.
yeah,
We just walked into it. Is quite interesting that you could just walk in. Anybody could walk in that moment. So there was a lot of people there that day. I mean, to have your club rush there, to have school in session, midday, 3,000 people in attendance and such, and especially with Utah that leans very pretty conservative. There was a lot of people there. So the problem with it is you had a lot of people there just with the circumstances. So in a scenario like this, I mean, like a lot of people were affected. I mean,
yeah,
a lot more than you would think, and
yeah,
just all the numbers were just raised just with the circumstances and such. So you saw the communities that were there with the flags and such. Did you see anything else that was kind of unique? Any other people like expressions on people's faces? Did you see worry? Like what were the emotions that were
yeah.
going before it all happened?
Well, I mean, like I feel like, I mean, hmm, overall, I think mostly it was just intrigue. I saw a lot of, I mean, frustration from because in the actual amphitheater, or like half amphitheater, little area where Charlie Kirk was sat in the middle, um, there was a side, and the whole side was just full of um people that were going against him, right? People that were frustrated and mad, or people that just disagreed with him. And that whole side had most of the flags, and on their faces, I saw mostly like frustration, which I mean is fair if somebody disagrees with you.
Absolutely.
And then, but I think around our area, where I mean we found a little balcony spot overlooking the whole event, and there was a decent amount of people there too. And I think mostly people were kind of just like people were literally shoving to get in just to kind of hear what was going on because it was loud. Just to People had that urgent sense of just like needing to be at the front of the line, needing to hear what Charlie Kirk had to say.
Hmm. So the stakes were high that day.
Oh,
Like there was a lot of intriguement, a lot of people who wanted to see the action and such. So where Taylor was talking about with the balcony, so you have, if you look at some of like the photos and such, you have the courtyard and then you have the pavilion where Charlie was speaking. And we were basically kind of just up on this balcony because the pavilion area where like the grass was and such, the amphitheater area as they call it, there was honestly not a single spot we could find. Like we were scouting and we were like, we're not going to be able to get down there.
yeah,
So we thought it would be best is if we took the high ground, and we got up to the higher elevation and we got a bird's eye view of everything.
yeah,
We could see the community that was not supporting Charlie there, communities, I probably should say. And I remember looking at the staircases. So they have staircases that go up to these balconies, basically. And the staircases were just full of people. Like people were like dangling like their legs like through like the bar and stuff. And it was just so full. You had people who were looking through the windows. It was just so insanely
yeah,
crowded. It was such a big event.
yeah,
And so much could go on in a moment like that. But yeah, did you notice anything when we were kind of up? So we got settled in our spot.
yeah,
We kind of set up camp. We're going to be like, we're probably going to stay at the spot for a couple hours
yeah.
unless people move or such. Um, but yeah, what else did you notice? Because you had a pretty good view. We had a pretty
Yeah,
good view of
yeah. I
everything.
mean, like you said, I mean, there was like there was a bridge over where the tent where Charlie Kirk was at. Like there was a bridge over it, and on that bridge was where a lot of the flags were like hanging down the bridge. Um, and I'm trying to think of more important. I mean, we could see Charlie Kirk. We could see the tent with our view. We could see everyone else. We could see the waves of just people, and it was a lot of people. Like it was like they were just shoved into like the brim. Um, and yeah, I don't remember anything else too particular. Just it was just really crowded and
Mhm.
really just dense in that one area. There was just a lot of people.
So it felt like a normal experience. It felt like a
Yeah, I
normal
mean,
rally. Nothing really jumped at you going, maybe something bad could happen from me being here.
I mean, obviously, the crowds were the opposing crowds. The crowds that agreed or disagreed with Charlie Kirk were very kind of feisty. Were kind of already kind of throwing words around, or kind of like already throwing just not physical things. I don't think, but just words. And it went through my mind. I was like, you know what? Something could happen. Somebody could say something sensitive or insensitive in that case. And it could start a little like fight, or somebody could throw something, or maybe Charlie Kirk would offend somebody. Uh, but I didn't think anything like major would happen, like what happened.
Right. So when you were walking in, and I had this thought too, and it's interesting that we both kind of had the same thought, just the kind of clarifying, just kind of making sure like the audience kind of could hear that, like you walked into the rally thinking that, well, for one, your life was at risk of you being there for one, and two, that you were expecting maybe some form of violence, whether that being physical or just a fight that would be broken out between words and such. I mean, typically you look at some of those videos and you have all sorts of chanting going
Yeah.
on, but you did not think that someone was going to die that day, right?
No, I mean, Utah's a pretty safe spot for most. Like these things don't usually happen in Utah. And I don't
Absolutely.
think we were prepared for it. I think that like you were talking about the security a little earlier. Not much security. Very, very lenient. Uh, we could just walk in there. They had police officers. They had people watching. But there. I mean, I'm guessing there were a lot of people that were carrying like a concealed carry in the area, right? There wasn't anything stopping people from doing that. I mean, there were, yeah, anything could happen, but it was Utah, so we weren't expecting it. We weren't expecting like a shooting to happen.
Right. So yeah, I mean, for the viewers who are watching from another state, here in America or another country, welcome. But yeah, me and Taylor we're obviously both from Utah, and Taylor, you've been in Utah for how many years now?
Probably 5, 6.
5 to 6 years, and you've lived out of the country too.
Yeah, yeah.
You've lived in Germany, Australia, and what other countries have you lived
Oh,
in?
I mean, I lived in Russia for a little bit when I was a little littler. I don't
Right.
remember it too well, but and then quite a few states. New York, Montana, been all
Yeah.
over. Military.
So yeah, your dad's in the military,
Yeah, yeah.
and you've been to a lot of countries and such.
Hmm.
And how has like the safety of Utah, like, I mean, as you said, like Utah's a pretty safe
Yeah.
space. I mean, did you really think that like Utah would ever have something like this compared to countries or so that kind of have a little bit more violence? I mean, currently America's having a lot of more
Yeah.
political violence lately, but did you ever expect that from Utah?
I mean, like, I don't think so. No, because we there's I mean there's a joke a lot about Utah being its own bubble. You know,
For sure.
but I think there is just kind of like a normal just culture just around the whole state, just about that feels safer. Feels like a place that you can just kind of like let your kids roam around and walk around and be okay. And I know that we're not the best in some statistics, but I know that there's some statistics that are really like in favor of our safety and less crime, and then shootings too. We don't have like shootings
No,
aren't like a thing that just happens at all.
no, not common at all in
So
Utah.
so yeah, I mean, other places it's like okay, yeah. I mean, when I lived in New York for a little bit, that was like a common thing. It was like, oh yeah, you might see something on the street. You might see somebody like punch somebody else. Like I saw somebody get mugged once, and that was like it was just New York, right? It was what to be expected. But to see somebody get mugged in Utah was like, oh, I don't expect that at all. And
Right.
that's just mugging. That's not even opening up to shootings.
Hmm. No, for sure. That's awesome. I'm glad we touched on that perspective of like Utah's bubble,
Yeah.
because Utah does get that stereotype that it's safe. I mean, Orem is pretty close to Provo, and I saw a statistic the other day or something that like Provo is like the one of like the safest cities in the entire U.S. or something, and it was just interesting that a couple minutes away you got Orem, Utah, and then Orem had one of, I would say, a pretty big political assassination. I mean,
Yeah.
that was pretty
Yeah.
big. I mean, you think of some, I mean, places now. I mean, President Trump, he doesn't really. He hates Butler, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
I saw a clip of him the other day, and someone mentioned Butler, Pennsylvania, and his eyes just kind of went all big and stuff,
Yeah.
But Orem, Utah, who would have thought,
Yeah. Small town.
So let's get into the moment like of the Big Bang for
Yeah.
us. I mean,
Literally.
this is the moment that is real. So with that being said, gunshot went off.
Mm-hmm.
What was the first thing that went through your head?
My first thought was it was a firework or somebody was trying to make a noise or something. My first thought wasn't a gunshot because we're talking about Utah and stuff. I didn't think it was like it was going to happen in our state. I was like, oh, somebody's joking around or something, or somebody's making a prank, or I didn't think it was a gunshot, right? And then I saw his head turn a little bit and kind of falter a little bit, and then my brain keeps going back and forth with this, but I saw some red, and then we heard just tons and tons of screaming,
Right.
and I think that was the moment I knew, okay, nope, never mind. This is not a joke anymore. This is something serious. Something bad happened.
So in your first moment, we heard the
Yeah.
gunshot went off. I'll kind of touch on that a little bit since I was there. When I heard the gunshot went off, I thought it was like a firework. It was really loud. I actually suffered from, I think I couldn't hear from my right ear for maybe a day or two. Like I had a pretty bad ringing in my ear just with how loud it was. But with that being said, so we just kind of both kind of took off.
Right,
And
yeah,
such.
Ranch ran.
And so to clarify, so you saw his head go over, you saw blood,
Yeah.
and in your first moments of realizing that you had, seen something very graphic like that, did you actually really consciously believe that Charlie Kirk had been shot?
So that is a good question because like immediately as it happened, that whole like time frame feels like it was minutes long when it
Right.
was in reality just like a single few seconds. Um, and I think the biggest thing that made me like it wasn't this shot of him, like it wasn't like the shot of him in my head, seeing that shot or picture, or like the actual shot. It was the screaming that like kind of bolted me up, and I was like, okay, we're running. And the entire time we were running, I was like thinking in my head, I was like, okay, well, this picture of him is kind of engraved. Is my brain playing tricks on me? Was he just like leaning over? Like what was going on? Because we were close enough to kind of see him, but it was still decently far back to where it was like something like that could happen and it could be interpreted as something else. Like he could just be like bending over or something else is happening.
Sure.
And in the moment I was all over the place. Like the adrenaline kicked in immediately, and we were just sprinting out. And I was not too sure until about halfway into our sprint, when I was like, I'm gonna check Twitter or X, and I checked it. I looked up Charlie Kirk, and I saw tons and tons and tons of stuff about Charlie Kirk getting shot, Charlie Kirk getting shot in the neck, all this stuff, and I was like, okay, never mind, this did happen.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That's awesome for you to touch on that and share your experience. And thank you for
Yeah.
being vulnerable on that. Because, I mean, when I was kind of trying to refresh my memory on this a little bit too, I mean, it still gives me a little bit of PTSD and such. So, but a unique question I have for you is, so we both started running.
Yeah.
Can you touch on that a little bit? Like we started running, where did
Yeah.
we go?
Well, I mean, first thing we did was we called our parents.
Right.
First thing you should do in a bad situation like that, just call your parents and just tell them what's going on, because you don't want your mom opening up watching the news and seeing that there's a shooting where you are and that you're not
Absolutely.
responding. So first thing we did, call our moms.
Right.
After we confirmed our safety and stuff, we ran to the entire side. We actually ran past the building that the shooter was on, if I'm not
We
mistaken.
did actually. So
A few minutes after the shooting took place.
me and Taylor, we'll put some photos on social media and stuff. But we went back maybe 2 months after the thing had happened, and we revisited and paid our respects to Charlie Kirk. And we revisited and we walked through our steps. And when we got a little bit more information, we realized two things that day. One, we were closer to the shooter than Charlie Kirk was. Two, we had walked past it. That's
Yeah.
right. We walked past where the shooter was. Like we were running so far that, in a roundabout
Yeah.
way, looking at like the security camera footage and where our steps were, we probably would have run into him because he jumped off that building pretty quickly, and we headed right towards the shooter. That's the scary part, because
Yeah.
a lot of people were trying to run away from Charlie Kirk, because you
That
run
was
away from
kind of-
Charlie Kirk,
yeah.
the main person that was targeted, you're in a safer spot. But the unique thing that we just did not realize is we were running towards the shooter.
Yeah.
And that was just something we didn't realize. Of course, the shooter didn't fire any shots, and he took
Yeah.
off on foot, went somewhere. I can't remember where he went, but I think he got in a car
Yeah,
somewhere and just
not
went
sure.
back to his hometown in
Yeah.
St. George or Hurricane or whatever. Hurricane. Yeah, whatever
No,
it's
no
called.
idea.
No one knows what that's
Yeah.
called. but we started running. We called our parents, so
Yeah.
our mom. So what did that conversation over the phone with your mom look like?
You know, like a little nerve wracking. Like you don't think you're gonna call your mom about something like this ever, right? This isn't something you should call your mom about. But I hopped on. Right, first thing I said was, "I'm safe." My mom is constantly drilling that in my brain. It's just like, if you're ever in a bad situation, just first call and say you're safe, and then explain what's going on. So I said, "I'm safe." There was a shooter at Charlie Kirk's thing. I'm okay. I'm running away. Owen's here. Whatnot. Love you. Bye. And she was really calm for the situation. And we finished the call shortly, and then we just continued running.
How did that feel to, in a moment where a mixture of emotions are going through your head? How did it feel to be able to hear your mom's voice and to have your mom just be calm and to have someone that was listening to
Yeah.
you? I mean, I'm sure that was a really good feeling to
Yeah,
have
no,
in a moment
I
like
mean,
that.
it just kind of tells us, well, somebody's like cares about you, and that you have somebody to call.
Hmm.
That's always an important part.
Is there an exact reason why you called your mom first?
I think the bigger thing is I mean my parents are divorced, so I had to call both parents. Um, but I know my mom would freak out a lot more if she saw something like pop up about Charlie Kirk, where I think my dad would have been a lot more relaxed. So I was like, you know what, mom, gonna call my mom first.
And it's crazy just to think this thought comes in my head all the time. It's crazy that two 17-year-olds have
Yeah.
experienced their first shooting. Like, I really hope that America doesn't come to a point where people will be like, when did you have your first shooting? What age were you when that happened and stuff? I hope that doesn't
Yeah.
become the cultural norm, because what we experienced that day is something I never want anyone to go through. It was it was terrifying. There was a moment throughout the day that we thought we were probably going to die, like that definitely did go through our head that we
Yeah.
we could die. So so then we got to a safe spot,
Yeah.
right? Where was the safe
So
spot?
the safe spot was a certain, I don't know the name of it, but a certain elementary school, um, outside, barely outside of the border of the school. We got there. There was a wall there, and we kind of like sat down behind the wall, and just kind of like chilled for a few seconds and caught up on like texts and phone calls. I had a few friends text me, and I mean, there were some people talking in the Turning Point chat, texting too about it. But the lady actually came out because there were a few more people that came around and was like, "Hey, you guys can't be here. This is a elementary school.
Right.
You guys can't be chilling around here." We're like, "No, there's a shooting. There was a shooting at UVU, like right there." And then because we told her, she actually ended up shutting down she ended up calling out the other schools, and they all shut down. I think like what was it, like 5 or 6, some eight,
Yeah.
maybe. I'm not sure the exact amount, but
I
there were
don't
a
know
few
what school
schools.
district that is down there, but
Yeah,
our first thought is, well, originally I called my friend Emma Wells. Shout out to Emma Wells. Emma's a student down at UVU. I called her that day saying, "Hey, you're gonna come down and watch this?" And she's like, "Maybe, I don't know." I'm
yeah,
like, "Just come down and say hi or something." And she was planning. I think she was planning on leaving or something at some point to come down. I also was talking to Aaliyah Osler. Shout out to Aaliyah Osler, and she was also down there too. And I called Emma and I was like, "Emma, like there's a shooting at UVU," and she's a student. She was in her dorm at the time, and we were like, "I don't know if boys are allowed at dorms or anything, but we don't know where to go," and we're kind of freaking out because we couldn't go to the parking lot because they
yeah,
blocked off the parking lot.
yeah. And so we couldn't go back to the car.
Right.
We had
And
our own
just
stuff. We
police were
couldn't like
just coming
leave.
in everywhere.
Yeah,
Like, I have videos of like 3 different angles of like a fire truck, a police car, and another fire truck, like all going towards the scene.
yeah,
And we called her and I'm like, we got to find a place to crash. Like, we need to be in a safe spot. I mean, probably not being at UVU was a safe idea
but
and
at least
such.
being in like a
But
dorm room would
but
have
that
been
was just our
better.
first thought. We didn't really know what we were doing. But the
Yeah,
problem is her dorm was on the other side of campus and it was 20 minutes away. And we were thinking to ourselves, we're not going.
yeah. We're not gonna go back into the campus.
We're
And
not going to go
wander
back,
around.
and wander through the campus because I mean that was putting our lives in danger to go back into the fire. So we just started going as east as we can towards the Wasatch Front. You know, the more east you go, you're gonna hit a mountain eventually in Utah. So we thought might as well just start climbing the
Yeah,
mountain or something.
we'll get out.
But we found an elementary school,
Yeah.
and as you were saying, and they were like, "You can't be there. Like, what are you doing? Like, it's a little
I mean, it,
suspicious
it
for
looks
you to
it
be."
looks weird.
It looked weird to have like two high schoolers just
Yeah.
standing,
And there were like 4 or 5 adults in the back also there too, and
yeah,
it's weird.
obviously the administration at the school was kind of a little worried that we were there, and then they were like, "What are you guys doing?" And we told them, we were like, "There's a shooting that happened," and they're like, "Can we come inside?" And they're like, "We can't." Like they didn't even let us into the elementary school. That's the other crazy part
Yeah.
too, which is reasonable
It makes
because
sense.
you know, I mean, we could have been a threat or something, but I mean, we were high schoolers too.
Yeah.
We were high schoolers. I mean, so we just didn't know where to go, and with us telling them, we actually did shut down like 6 other schools in the area. So that was something very little that we contributed, and luckily we did something little
Yeah.
like that day, and luckily all those kids were okay. It was probably a very scary moment, and I also remember too that there were like parents were
Yeah.
already checking out their
Yeah,
kids.
they were trying to get into the
Like,
school and stuff.
It looked like the bell was about to ring in 5 minutes or
Yeah.
so in like the morning, and like cars were piling up to pick up their kids, and I'm like, this is gonna cause so much traffic. Like, you're gonna have ambulances and police
Yeah.
cars and such. I mean,
the parents couldn't pick up their, like, the school wasn't supposed to let the parents get their child, so they were saying, "Oh no, we can't." So there were some angry parents in their situation too.
it was just chaos. It was just chaos. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously a mother and a father's instinct in that scenario is just let me get my kid and let's get him in a safe spot and
Yeah.
such. But so, and then after that, you called your
Great aunts,
great
yeah.
aunt, and tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, so I had an aunt who lives in the area. Shout out to Aunt Margaret. I don't know if you're listening or not, but this is to you. She's Margaret Dayton. She was the first female Utah representative, actually. So pretty impressive on her end. But I called her. I was like, "Hey, um, we need somewhere to like go right now. You know, we need somebody to grab us right now. I know you live like 5 minutes away. Is it okay if like are you home? Is it okay if you grab us a ride and we go back to your place?" And she answered and said, "Oh, okay, yeah, chill." Waited a few minutes, and then we got back in, got into her car, and took off, and we got into her house.
Right.
And then we explained what was going on, and she was very worried too, just in general about the whole thing. And then she started making, I believe, grilled cheese for us.
I will say one thing, side note. It was one of the most delicious grilled cheese I've ever had. And we had cantaloupe, and
Yeah.
I have had cantaloupe probably since I was 6. But we just had the news on. The
Yeah,
news was on it was on my phone, it was on her TV, it was on her radio. It was just everywhere, and we were just so sucked into the news. At this point, there was a moment where me and Taylor were just we said a prayer with his aunt Margaret, and we just prayed and prayed and prayed that we wanted Charlie to be okay, you know, like
Yeah.
there was like word that his wife and kids were there.
Yeah.
I never could figure out if they were there at the scene.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I keep hearing both sides of things where they're like, "Oh, the kids were there, kids weren't there." I didn't see the kids, but obviously I wasn't looking for the kids.
Right.
So
But obviously, I mean, just in a moment like that, there was a lot of assumptions, and we didn't
Yeah.
know what was going to happen. And I mean, me and Taylor saw a little bit of blood. I didn't see anything in the moment. Like I was so distracted looking at the crowd that by the time I had a second to react, it was too late. I was already running. So then we went back, and after we had eaten and everything, we
saw the video.
we saw the video, and I fell down to the ground. I fell to my knees.
It was like shocked.
It was-
It genuinely kind of like took the breath away for a few seconds. Like
Right.
it was traumatizing in its own accord.
It was definitely probably one of the most just disgusting and awful things I've ever seen. I mean, we heard the gunshot that killed him. You saw it. I heard it. And
Yeah.
then when you have that noise that is the loudest firework, like cracker noise out there and such, I
Hmm.
mean, it's just awful to like be able to put those two worlds together. I mean, some people, they saw the whole thing. They saw him get shot and they heard it.
Yeah.
We kind of had,
They
well,
were close
one,
up. Yeah, we kind of had the way further away, but we didn't have to
exactly.
experience that like too firsthand.
And we just couldn't watch anymore.
Yeah,
Like
no, it was.
it was, I mean, I'm sure just for people who weren't even there, it was disgusting, but um I felt like I couldn't breathe, like it was such a scary moment. But kind of touched on that moment too. What was kind of going through your head?
Yeah, well, obviously, I didn't know the condition of Charlie Kirk. I saw something happen. And I was like, but then again, there's a lot of stories about people getting shot and then surviving, right?
Right.
Um, and so, obviously, after I'm hearing that Charlie Kirk was shot, I think my first like thought was, oh, maybe he survived, right? Maybe it's okay. And then I think after watching the video, like all that like surviving faith just left. I was like, yeah, nobody's surviving this. Like that was just like, and I mean, we checked up on the news for a long time after, just
Right.
kept checking, just kind of like looking up his name, kind of like pacing around the room, just kind of looking up like, oh, where, like, um, is he alive? Is he not? Like, what's going on? And then we eventually got the
The
notification
Yeah.
that he had passed away.
Right. And just you go back and look at the footage and just he was gone in that moment. I'm so certain of it. I mean, he probably didn't even feel it. But so we're about getting ready to hit time here.
Yeah.
But my last question for you is, after going through something so unexpected, when did you realize that this experience could shape a new perspective or or purpose in your life, no matter what challenges you face next? So kind of just to touch on that a
Yeah.
little bit. How did going through something like this change your life? And when was the moment in your head that you realized that you're not going to be the same after this experience?
I think there's two specific moments that kind of pop in my brain. The first one was immediately after all this had happened and we had gotten home, I had work immediately. And so I had to head to work and I was working and I was like, it feels so weird to experience something like that and then go to work. And that taught me one lesson, and that was just that kind of like life kept moving. It felt like things stopped for a few seconds. They did stop for a few seconds, but people still like had to be helped and still had to like needed to be helped. And I think that was the big thing that came to me. I was like, oh shoot, I can't I can't dwell on this for too long because I can't let this affect me too much. Like mentally, I can't let this affect me too much. I have to, I think the best thing I can do right now is just kind of like give a few seconds and like balance myself, ground myself, and then continue on with my day. But I mean, it was crazy because we got back and the world just was normal again. Like we went to the school the next day and people were talking about it, and then there were a few of us who were just kind of like, just we weren't talking. We were just thinking, and it was way different for us than everyone else. And the second moment was there were a few times after where a loud noise happened or a balloon popped, and that kind of like did kind of like startle you a little bit or push you back a little bit. Like you kind of like felt like that PTSD was kind of there like a little bit because of what had happened.
Right.
And I think the important thing is like everyone that was there that I know, we didn't let it shape us too much. And I think the people that were there also tried to do things like this podcast right here, and like my social media. We all tried to take little steps to make a difference somehow, because I think first of all we saw how short life was, and second of all we saw that our generation needs something new.
That's awesome. And that's amazing that you just picked up where you left off and you continue to serve people, but just our community was also so helpful to
Yeah.
people who were there. But the point is the world will keep moving, and it's a cool experience that we both got to have that and to allow us to shape us. And I think we're better people from an experience like that.
Yeah.
And I think it's important in the world that we keep talking, as Charlie Kirk said. And that's actually a big reason why I started this podcast was some of Charlie Kirk's words about talking, that we need to keep talking. And I have a lot of respect for him in that sense. And yeah, and I have a lot of respect for Taylor for coming on this on my show
to.
and to share some firsthand
Yeah.
experience of what that day was like.
Yeah.
So,
Well, thank you for having me on.
yes, thank you. Well, thank you to everyone who watched the Owenverse today. I'm Owen Jeffries, and please share this with your friends and try and get the word out that this is a legit thing and it's up in the air. Please subscribe if you're watching from YouTube, and keep following on Spotify and Apple Music. And thank you for being a part of my universe. And this is the Owenverse.